Okay, so this video is geared towards talking about something known as social grades. This will also may be referred to as demographics. And this is an audience theory. So first of all, what are social grades? Social grades are, to put it simply, a means of categorizing different groups of audiences according to their income, as in how much they earn from their employment, or lack of in some cases. This is important because it basically allows us as media practitioners or designers to figure out how much disposable income different categories of audience have. Disposable income is the amount of money that someone has left over after they've paid for their essentials. So for example, from a particular wage, you might have to pay for rent, food bills, energy bills, stuff that you absolutely need to survive. Once you've spent all that money, you'll have some money left over from your paycheck. That is what is known as your disposable income. So social grades are categorized according to letters. So very simply, you've got A, which is the wealthiest or has the largest amount of income and therefore disposable income. A generally includes upper middle class individuals. So we're talking higher managerial, potentially doctors, that sort of thing. Generally the highest paid jobs out there. You then have B, which is middle class. This is kind of intermediate managers. You're looking at sort of teachers and things like that. People who are paid pretty well. They've got a decent lifestyle, but aren't quite up there with A. Generally, these people will need some form of qualifications to get their employment. And then you've got C1, which is lower middle class. Now, this will be, experienced office workers and things like that. Generally, some lower qualifications such as A-levels or GCSEs, but generally an okay income with some disposable income. You then get down to C2, which is skilled working class, which will be things like skilled manual workers. Now, interestingly, they put things like plumbers and electricians into this bracket, but actually they're generally quite well paid in many societies. But generally, these guys have a little bit less money than C1 and therefore a lower amount of disposable income. You then have working class, which is unskilled manual workers. We're talking cleaners and things like that. People who are doing a job that doesn't really require any qualifications and a very limited amount of training and generally has quite a low income. And then finally, you've got non-workers. So that would be people dependent on state income. That means people who rely on benefits and things like that. I think, as I say, the important thing to recognize is that essentially up the top here, A, they will have a large amount of disposable income. And at the bottom here, E, will have a low amount of disposable income. And generally, each of these categories will have different things that appeal to them in media products or things that will catch their attention. Now let's have a look at how these break down in terms of the quantity. So if you break down the averages of society, you tend to find 4% of people are in bracket A, 23% are in bracket B, 29% are in bracket C1, and then 21% are in bracket C2. And then at the bottom, you've got D with 15% and E with 8. Now, generally, media products target this set here, A to C1. This is because they are, number one, it's quite a broad spectrum of people, but also all of them have a relatively decent amount of disposable income. So creating a media text that appeals to these groups here mean that, number one, you're appealing to a large enough number of people. So, for example, if you only aimed at A, you've got a very small quantity of people that you would be trying to market towards. But if you combine them all in, including the much larger demographic groups of B and C1, you then have a large target market, but also these have more disposable income than C2 down to E. So how do we actually use this theory? Essentially, if you are analyzing a media text, you should look at the design of it, the actual cost of the product, the sort of content that's within, and then come to a decision based on your opinion of which groups this is most likely to be targeting. Make sure you include evidence to back up this analysis. So as a sentence starter there, I've got this product clearly targets social grades A to C1 through its use of. Now this might be that it uses, very high quality, high class design elements. It might be that it has articles about expensive or glamorous things within it. You get the idea. It generally it will be including things that will appeal to people with a larger amount of disposable income. specifically A to C1 generally. If you're creating your own media product, you essentially, before you start beginning the design phase, you need to decide who you're going to target. And this is what people in the media industry will do. They come up with an idea and then they decide who are they actually going to sell that idea to. Once you've got that idea, you can then tailor your production according to the interests of your target market. Once you've made that decision, you can then go into the production phase knowing exactly what you want to do. So as an example, if you were to be doing a proposal for your own product, you might say something along the lines of, my product will target social grades A to C1 because, and then you list the reasons why you would want to appeal to that group to A to C1. So for example, in this case, I'd say they've got a large amount of disposable income. And then I'll say, and I will achieve this through, and then I'd list the ways in which I would appeal to them. So as I say, that would be including imagery that's, very that appeals to that group, or perhaps talking about the content of my product, such as, for example, in magazines, I might do articles about things that would appeal to people with a disposable income and quite a nice lifestyle. But there you have it, really. Social grades is a really simple way of just categorizing groups of people according to effectively how much money they have. Recognizing that allows you to more accurately either analyze a media text or create one to appeal to them.